Hello, everyone. It is such a pleasure to have you here with us today. I'm pleased to introduce to you Haley McFall, who will come up here shortly to share a bit about her work. And before I do that, I just want to share a brief bio about Haley. Haley grew up in Portage, Michigan, and moved her way around the state after graduating from the Penny W. Stamps School of Art and Design. She is an artist and photographer who lives in an old farmhouse with her partner and two familiars. She likes being silly, gardening, reading, practicing kindness, and being a part of art communities of all kinds. It is my pleasure to welcome to the podium Haley McFall. Please join me in welcoming her.
Hello, everyone. It's so nice of you to be here. Thank you for coming. I'm Haley McFall, and I do like art, magic, soft spaces, and flowers. I'm also one of the photography residents here at the Kalamazoo Institute of Art. So today I'll be chatting with you all about what's been on my mind lately, which happens to be things that I like: art, magic, soft spaces, and flowers. And how those things have shown up throughout my life and how it's all influenced my current work. And we'll start from the very beginning. I grew up a goofy and slightly anxious child, floating in and out of my mom's art studios, always by my older sister's side. My family is and always has been very supportive and has guided me towards my interests and a life of finding wonder in the everyday. I was a busy kid. I was a gymnast and a growing artist. I started taking classes here at the KIA in middle school in the photography department and quickly fell in love with photographic processes. Looking back now, even my black and white photography from high school tried to capture soft memories and comforting spaces. I continued taking art classes. I switched it too soon. I continued taking art classes through high school and eventually got into the Penny W. Stamps School of Art and Design at the University of Michigan. At U of M, I continued with photography. I found myself experimenting with how light interacts with different textures and surfaces to create nostalgic images, playing with ideas of reminiscing and memory. I also became interested in bookbinding and focused on this alongside photography. I learned to tintype and used this medium to complete my thesis, which was based on ideas of familiarity, memory, and again, reminiscence. I received my Bachelor of Fine Arts with a focus in photography and bookbinding. After graduating, I drifted away from photography and began carving my own stamps and printing art prints and decorative paper to use on book covers. These images are good examples of what the process of carving looks like and then what the prints end up looking like. I found myself pulled more and more towards the subject of botanicals and flowers and their symbolism. Here's an example of creating a stamp and then using that to print on paper that I used on the cover of this journal, which is hand-bound with the Coptic stitch. These are more examples of that process. I often participated in art fairs and shows to try and sell some of these, and I still do occasionally. During this time, I also was working with some dear friends on some of their album artwork. Most of the work was printmaking and collage, which I enjoyed, and it was very fun. But the thing I loved best about these projects was the collaboration with fellow artists. I learned the value of working with different minds and it was really satisfying to see these projects come together, especially with friends. Because of what I learned creating these album covers, collaboration became one thing that drove me to continue creating. Other artists' work and the inspiration it sparks is another thing that drives my creativity forward. The artists around me, my fellow residents, artists the KIA has introduced me to, and my family members are a really important source of inspiration to me. These are just a few examples. The way the Impressionists captured light in their paintings has always captivated me. This one is from one of Monet's murals in Paris on the upper left. Juyang Che, who has an incredible show downstairs in the Joylight Gallery currently, works with such loving themes that are full of important feelings and humor, which I love. One of her paintings is on the lower left here. My sister, Chelsea Bird, is an artist and a writer. Her work, especially this piece called Clementine, is emotional and beautiful and makes you want to live in the stories she writes about. That's in the middle. My mom, Sandy Horde, has always inspired me to make art. This piece on the upper right is one of hundreds of drawings, paintings, and ceramic pieces I've seen her create, each one more atmospheric than the last. And this piece on the lower right is a piece by Gretna Campbell, which also lives downstairs here. It's an abstract of a lively and vibrant garden. While each of these are unique, I think I'm drawn to each one because they all feel like soft landings and spaces of comfort, or places you can breathe and reflect in quietly. And I think that idea really resonates with me, and I hope I've carried some of that into my own work. The softness I'm drawn to is reflected in my habit of noticing and looking for those subtle and soft moments and memories in my everyday. This noticing is very much how my art making process begins. These are just images that I've collected on my iPhone, but I think it serves as a good reminder to find magic in your everyday life and how it can inspire you in the future. In 2020, when we all slowed down because we had to, I followed my interest in plants and flowers and began gardening. I grew cut flowers and found real and true inspiration and magic, watching tiny seeds and tubers turn into these big, energetic blooms. This is closely tied to my interest in spells and ritual as a means of comfort, reflection, and a sense of control as a person with anxiety living in the world that we're all currently surviving together. As my interest in botanicals grew, I was around these flowers that I loved all the time, so I naturally found my way back to photography to document them. At first, I thought I might use these images as inspiration for paintings of my own, but then realized they seemed like finished pieces in their own right. My spell and ritual practice naturally draws me to crystals too, and if you remember way back to my early photo work, I've carried a longing to manipulate and capture light in my work to create these dreamy and soft images to spend time with. So I started taking photos through crystals, using them as filters, and you can see that on the left here. It's literally just holding a crystal and taking a photo through them. I also came to the realization that both plants and crystals hold very specific symbolism and meaning. So I could stack these meanings during the photographic process and create images that are imbued with these meanings too, essentially making the photograph itself a spell. In this image here on the right, I'm photographing these flowers, which are pink sea thrift, which traditionally signifies hope and endurance because the small blooms find a way to flourish in harsh coastal landscapes. And I took that image through a quartz crystal, a lot like the one on the left here. in front of the lens. Quartz is said to amplify energies and have healing properties. And I also wanted to point out that in these images, you can see how the light begins to shift and bend just by looking at the crystal itself. So by stacking the sea thrift and the quartz symbolism, this would become our dreamy little spell image, holding hopeful, enduring, and healing energies for us to rest in as we view it. It essentially becomes one of those soft spaces that I talked about that I like so much. I've carried this process into my black and white photography and photogravure processes during my residency. I enjoy working with color, but during my residency, it's felt very full circle and like coming home to work in black and white again. For my photogravure process, I start with a color digital image that you can see on the top left, change it to grayscale on the bottom left, and then it's printed and etched onto a metal plate, which is seen at, I can actually have a pointer right there. And then I can proceed to print that like any other intaglio plate using ink and a press to print directly onto this page that I'm holding in this image, which I'm planning to bind into one big spell book for my final project. These are some other examples of photogravures that will be bound into the book by hand. I'm also printing these small spells using the traditional black and white darkroom processes. These images are quite small, around 3.5 by 5 inches, and are inviting and intimate. And I'm also enjoying playing with larger scale prints as well. You can see that on the left, which I think are really atmospheric and dreamy too. Currently, I'm creating and curating my spell book, which I will bind by hand, finding what images I think are best and deciding the order and logistics. So my brain does look a lot like this, and so does the studio that I'm working in right now. I've been so proud of finding my way through this residency process and very proud to be a part of this group of 7 incredibly talented and kind residents. I've learned so much from them just by being around their artwork. The classes and community events we've participated in have been valuable and a super positive way for me to find my way back to photography and my voice as an artist. These projects we've created for the community events in the center and the right image. Really fun. The middle one are cyanotype magnets that we made for the holiday sale, and then the right image is an example of the photograms that we taught visitors to make at our hands-on event here at the KIA. The residency has been a lot of work, and I think it's given me clarity and confidence in what inspires me and what kind of work I want to continue as I venture beyond May 2nd, which is the opening day of our show, so come back to visit and see our work. This is us again for the 3rd time. I wanted to take a second for some thank yous. Thanks to Mary Whalen for consistently inspiring me throughout the residency and throughout basically my whole creative life, and for encouraging me towards making work that I'm really proud of. Thanks to Leslie and Courtney and our department heads and mentors for organizing this opportunity. Thanks to my fellow residents for inspiring me and being the sweetest community to spend time in. And thanks to my sweet family for all the support and help as I was too busy to do anything but make art these past few months. And thank you all for being here. If you're interested in following my art in the future, or right now, my Instagram handle and website are here on the bottom right. And I think that's it.